Hey, how's it going? I'm Ron,
I'm Zach.
and we're here on yet another episode of Influences. We're from the band Widetrack, and we want to wish you all a very happy holiday season, wherever you may be. And today we're going back to the days of yesteryear, the 1960s.
Which is actually a little bit longer than yesteryear, unless that's a term I'm assuming the meaning of wrong.
It is.
Oh, forgive me then.
Don't mess this up for me.
Oh, okay, hey, no hostility. It's happy time. All right.
Come here.
All right. Well, starting off the list, I have an album that I kind of like more than all the others. It's Goodbye by Cream. The only reason I like it more than all the others is kind of unfair. I don't think I've given all the others a proper listen, but, you know, it's still my favorite when it comes to Cream albums, and I never got super duper into Cream, but I definitely do like the album Goodbye. Half of it's a live album. The second half is a studio recorded album with songs like Badge and What a Bring Down on the second half, and a really cool live version of I'm So Glad on the first half, which is kind of the highlight. And all around, I think it's a nice album. One of the albums that really got me into listening to music. So it's stuck with me.
Yeah, I loved the interplay of the bass and drums underneath Eric Clapton's guitar on the live stuff. Really cool.
Definitely think it should go with mentioning that Jack Bruce is a very influential figure, not only to me directly, but to the people that I'm really heavily influenced by. You know, lots of them say he's the man.
Yeah.
Kind of like how I say, kind of like how I say they're the man.
Yeah.
You know, all perspective.
So yeah, and by the way, we've chosen to combine our list today. So we've picked 5 albums that we both can kind of get behind.
I didn't think there was enough '60s albums without repeating artists. Like, all right, Disraeli Gears, World on Fire. Okay, number whatever. You know, I mean, it'd be a little redundant. So to maintain diversity, we have combined our lists.
Yep. So number 4 is Jimi Hendrix, Axis, Bold as Love. This might be a controversial one. Actually, quite a few of these will be controversial. We've decided to only choose one per band.
There were lots that we said, ooh, but we could just say it's a tie. But, you know, at the end, it's like you either have a real winner or you just have to decide one, because the more ties you have, the less concrete you are, which, coming from the guy that...
Well, that's part of it, too, is it's really taking ownership of your own personal preferences. And
yeah, because, I mean, like, if you wanted to see the top 5, 10 best 60s albums, you sure don't need us.
Yeah, there's a lot of other bands not being covered in this list, obviously, and as always, we encourage you to...
Oh, definitely. I'm very... well, I don't know anything about the 60s, so I'm very open to anything that anyone should suggest.
Well, you've got
Axis Bold as Love.
You've got some good ones that you do have some familiarity with, though. So, Axis Bold as Love, Jimi Hendrix's second album with the Jimi Hendrix Experience. This is the one with Little Wing and If 6 Was 9, and the title track Bold as Love, One Rainy Wish, Spanish Castle Magic. It's my personal favorite Jimi Hendrix. It's close, though. Those first 3 Experience albums are just phenomenal. Are You Experienced, Electric Ladyland, they're great in their own right. I could just pick them with a blindfold and I'd be just as fine. But Axis Bold as Love has always just edged the other ones out for me personally, and just begun to get this young man into the Jimi Hendrix world. So that'll be exciting.
But for right now, I'm just so busy. All right, hour number 3. It starts getting tough here. We've decided it's Led Zeppelin 2. Now, personally, I think the first 3 Led Zeppelin albums are amazing. I like all of them. Led Zeppelin 3 could be my favorite, or it could be Led Zeppelin 1 or 2. But, you know, for the sake of diversity and overall how we feel about the album and how it's maintained its feeling with us, we picked Led Zeppelin 2.
Yeah, it was. I agree that the first 2 Led Zeppelin albums were both. I think the debut was done at the end of '68, and then Led Zeppelin 2 was released in '69, and the debut was recorded in something like 23 hours, so that's amazing. But then Led Zeppelin 2 was recorded all over while they were on the road, so that was just as impressive, if not more, because they were busy with a full touring schedule, and they happened to make an album in all different places, different studios. The album was recorded. The album kind of features a bit more diversity as well than the first album, which is a lot blues based, and Zeppelin were just getting together, and absolutely their first album is
very Yardbirdsy.
Yeah, very Yardbird, but it's powerful.
Yeah,
Led Zeppelin
does,
2
I mean, when you go from the first track to the second track, I mean,
yeah, Babe, I'm
Good
Gonna Leave
Times,
You,
Bad
Good
Times,
yeah.
to Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You. It's like, you know, amazing opening song for the band, acoustic song. That's night and day almost, but yeah.
Yeah, it's once you get into Zeppelin's albums, there's something on every one of them that you really can't do without. So this is really splitting hairs, but you know, the second Zeppelin album, Whole Lot of Love, What Is and What Should Never Be, Moby Dick, Ramble On, yeah, Bring It On Home, Thank You, the Lemon Song. It's Livin' Lovin' Made, Heartbreaker. It's a bona fide classic. You can't go wrong with Led Zeppelin 2. It's the album that really solidified their legend in the early days. So that's our number 3.
I don't know if we numbered those wrong at all, but coming in at number 2, we have our favorite Beatles album, which this is what we mentioned or alluded to earlier when we said that a lot of these are controversial, because how could you pick a favorite Beatles album?
This was tough. We really had to pin down by a fine hair what Beatles album.
And it wasn't last minute either. We've been thinking about this for a while now.
Well,
by the songs, by the songs.
You can only pick one, and you're not going to be okay with that, but you can only pick one.
Not to keep you in suspense. Magical Mystery Tour.
Magical Mystery Tour.
So this album has a few songs that are kind of but it's only maybe 2 or 3, and the rest of them are absolutely amazing.
I can go start to finish with that one.
Go.
I mean,
go on.
Every song on it, I love. Your Mother Should Know. I Am the Walrus.
One of my favorites when I was really, really little.
Hello, Goodbye. Is that your favorite Beatles song?
Yeah.
It's a good one. Baby, You're a Rich Man. There's a deep cut that I just love. Title track, Magical Mystery Tour. The Fool on the Hill. Good heavens. Strawberry Fields Forever. Penny Lane. I don't know why this album doesn't get hailed more. I mean, you're usually hearing Revolver, Sgt. Pepper's, or Abbey Road, and those are all phenomenal. They were in the running. But for us, this was the only Beatles album that was just like a hell yes, every song. Magical Mystery Tour. Check it out if you haven't heard it.
Yeah, or give it a re-listen at least. I mean, it deserves it. I mean,
Yeah.
Go just about anywhere with it. And now for the number one. The best album of the 60s.
This was a shared opinion.
I mean, it was like what we did with the 90s and Bad Motorfinger. This was undeniable. It was like, you know, we didn't really bother trying to argue against it because we knew. Nothing comes close to this in our scales and opinions.
King Crimson.
In the Court of the Crimson King.
Our favorite album of the 60s. 1969. The album starts off with the magnificent
21st
Take No Prisoners.
21st Century Schizoid Band, which I should add is surprisingly War Pigs-esque. Not in the song way, but you know, a little bit in the song way. It's very improvisational, but like I've also found the effect that it has with people that don't listen to that type of music as, you know, their main genre. I mean, there are numerous covers of it, or what have you, references to it from many different artists and bands, and it's almost like surprising how many artists and bands have covered it or respect it, and
even Kanye sampled that song. It's undeniable. That song has some of the most amazing interplay with the drummer Michael Giles
does not get enough credit. I mean, everyone, when they think of King Crimson, they usually think of Bill Bruford, and a lot of people actually think that he was the one who played on 21st Century Schizoid Band, but that is simply not the case.
It's a guy named Michael Giles who was a huge influence on Neil Peart, by the way. So if you're talking,
I mean, rightfully so. That's 21st Century Schizoid Man.
Yeah.
And so on. Epitaph. In the Court of the Crimson. Epitaph.
Yep.
Epitaph.
I Talk to the Wind.
The title track in the Court of the Crimson King. It's all great.
Moonchild. Just a phenomenal album. There's only the 5 songs on it.
And it's quite a short album too, which is why for any music lovers, or you know, even if you like the song War Pigs, I would recommend it because it's reminiscent of it, but it's completely its own thing. That's not to undermine it in any way. And the rest of the album is nothing like 21st Century Schizoid Man. It's remarkable. The whole album's great. We did an entire episode on it because really you can go beyond that and you can find quite a few other good bits and pieces, but you'll never find as a whole an album, at least in my opinion, by King Crimson that matches the sheer we gotta find the right word here.
Majesty.
The sheer majesty and utter triumphance as in the court of thine Crimson King.
Indeed. Well, that's our top 5 list.
But wait.
But wait, there's more.
We have one honorable mention. Now, I know. It's top 6, but bear with me now.
We have to stay true to tradition here.
Wasn't there an artist that we were strikingly leaving out, and that we are still kind of doing a disservice by only mentioning them and this album as an honorable mention? Yes. Yes, there was. None other than
The Rolling Stones.
the rock and roll classics themselves.
Let It Bleed opens with Gimme Shelter. Is that your favorite Stones tune?
Yeah. But, I mean, that's
One of them
like...
anyway.
I don't want to think about it too much because it'll take a while.
That's a classic. You want to have a real treat, go on YouTube and find the isolated vocal for Gimme Shelter. It really... Wow, Mick Jagger.
If you
just
want another
kills it.
treat, one that's not so sweet and more depressing, look up the backstory, or whatever you would want to call it, to the song. It's not really the lyrical depth, but the backstory to the recording and making of the song. Specifically, the singer featured on the song. It is quite depressing, but there are many Stones albums that are great. I mean, starting off, you have Sticky Fingers, which is like the unanimous best Stones album for quite a few people. But you also have Beggar's Banquet and others that I'm forgetting. Some
Beggar's
girls.
Banquet and Let It Bleed are the last two of the 60s.
Yeah,
so
but I mean, when
going
it comes
back
to
the
Stone
earlier
albums,
times,
yeah,
you have Satisfaction and Get Off My Cloud and
yeah, when it comes
Mother's
to
Little Helper, all that
lots
old
of
stuff. But this
Stones
is when they
albums.
started getting into the 70s Stones, but
And
they were still
I always
in the
find
60s.
that the bridging to a new era, like how many of these are closer to the end of the 60s, is always quite a magical thing to see. Early 70s, late 70s to early 80s even. You know, it's always great to see the birth of a new era, which I think this album and all the further Stones albums really defined with the 70s and rock and roll and kind of the golden age of, hey, music is just do whatever you want and kind of just be good and do your thing and do your own thing and be
That
good at your own
really,
thing. And that's, I think, the...
that's a good point, because that really was born in the 60s. The 60s were just a time when
kind of dry and...
the innocence of music and culture exploded to the wide open in the 60s.
with the Beatles and the Stones and
just the cult of
all them.
the flower power era and all that stuff. And there was just a lot of pushing the boundaries. And the 60s led way to the 70s, which
The
for
70s
us is
were,
real, yeah.
I mean, you'll find something good in the 70s. There's plenty of good stuff there. I mean, so many things were kind of just allowed to slide, you could say. Not really so much as like in a bad way, but in like a non-commercial way, you know, there was more diversity.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key to just about anything is you want to make it different.
Yep. That wouldn't have been possible in the 70s without the 60s. So the 60s are
very key role.
we had to include
the grand
them in our
scheme of things.
decades. It's about as far back as our wheelhouse goes. 50s, absolutely. That's when rock and roll was born, and you have Elvis, and you have, Jerry Lee Lewis, and you have.
If you ask a young person such as myself, I can't name a 50s album or anything back.
50s are kind of a black sheep in terms of the decades. And 50s was the birth of rock and roll, but it was it's the one era that still gets looked at as a bit passé and a bit hokey by today's standards, and maybe unfairly so, depending on who you ask.
There's probably good stuff in every decade.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
not that I know of. Which again, if you say, well, you haven't heard of this album that came out in the 50s, by all means.
Yes, please put that stuff in the comments, and we welcome.
I would love to see what.
Yes, we welcome your input
one has
on
to
this
offer.
stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. So, anyhow, that concludes our reviews, our top 5 lists of the decades, the 60s through current decade. Did we do
Except
the current decade?
for perhaps the current decade.
2010s?
We have not done the 2010s.
2010s coming your way next week. Okay. Hope you have a great Christmas.
Or whichever holiday you choose to celebrate.
Whatever holiday you choose to celebrate, but it's
I mean, it's all the same fun to us, really.
yeah, it's all good. So till next time, keep on rocking.